I think it's time. We got 10 people here. It's roughly the size we had yesterday. Sorry, last week. So that's good. Let's start it. Does anyone want to share their notebooks right now on what they've done? Has one? Do you want to? Would you feel comfortable sharing that?
I didn't do much. I just replaced the selected text in the sample submission file with the text column that is in the test file. So I didn't do much. I was just trying whether I could submit or not. So yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
Were you able to submit and get a score?
No.
Have any idea why? What's going wrong?
It's saying that I submitted the notebook after the competition has ended. So.
No. Uh-oh.
I think Yuri, you got the score, right? You tried to submit.
Yuri, are you here?
Looks like his audio is disconnected. I don't see a microphone on him.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. And anyone else wants to share his or her notebook before we just go into the coding session? If no one wants to share, which is fine, and we can just start coding and we can just talk more at the end, perhaps for like half an hour or something.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So
I have some questions. These are simple questions. Some of them. It looks like I got used to using Colab. I saw from the Saturday one how I could use Colab if I want, but I'm wondering with Kaggle notebooks, am I missing an easy way to create a table of contents? Or do you have to just do it with anchors and all that kind of stuff? Does anyone have any idea? Table of contents? Okay, I'll take that as a no. My next question is, is there anyone on the call that's using other environments other than the Kaggle hosted notebooks? Maybe they could describe what they're doing.
Yeah, so this is Arshad. Yeah, basically I prefer to develop locally. So I'm using kind of like a scripted version of it. They do give you that option either to create a notebook or a script. So in terms of my case, I'm using IntelliJ with its Python support because it allows me to create unit tests and run everything locally really easily. So I'm doing that.
So you downloaded the Git, the Kaggle Git repository and followed those instructions, basically?
Yeah, so I downloaded the competition using the Kaggle command line tool just to get the data. But then all the code, I'm doing that completely from scratch.
So how will you submit? Will you use the API or something?
Yeah, so basically what I was going to do was I wasn't really going to submit a proper notebook. I was only going to submit my solutions. So I was just going to create a dummy notebook and just up the version of it and upload my test CSV file and kind of use that as the submission. I haven't done it yet though, so it might all be totally broken from what you guys are describing, but that was my plan.
Are you using a container, Docker container locally?
No, I'm trying to use my GPU. Well, I suppose I could do it through my container, but I'm just using native Linux on my machine. So yeah, just running it natively against the GPU.
I get it. Is there anyone else using any other environment other than the hosted notebooks? Just curious, guys. Another question, does anyone know how to do data persistence? In other words, like it seems like I build models and then when I come back to that notebook, it's not there, even though it was saved and working. Is there any way to persist them either within
If you're doing it local with like Anaconda?
No. I'm just using the hosted notebooks in Kaggle.
Oh, I
That's,
see. Okay.
yeah, I understand those other options. Moving into Colab, I know how to host it. Doing it locally, in or out of a container, I know how to, I don't mean host it, I know how to maintain my data. But if I'm just using the Kaggle hosted notebooks, is there any way to persist the models you've built or any data? Does anyone have any ideas?
I think you need to checkpoint your model, like save your model weights and parameters. There are ways you can do in PyTorch and TensorFlow.
So I'm not sure what you mean by checkpoint. I'm not even using a deep learning model right now. What I'm using is Spacey, training an NER, whatever. It comes up with some model files that are stored in a model directory in the working directory on Kaggle. So how do I? Yeah.
Then you need to manually download them.
So you just manually download them as you need them.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a Google Drive integration for that as well?
Not with Kaggle.
Okay, so that's a problem.
I'm not sure whether you can mount like you do in Colab.
Right, that's what I was wondering. I try to avoid uploading and downloading when I'm where I'm using satellite internet. It's slow, uses up all my frickin' bandwidth. I mean my allotted gigabytes. So. Okay, that's a couple of my questions. I have one more question. This is more a little more interesting, perhaps, everyone. So I looked at the Jacquard score, of the actual the selected text to the text in the test in the training set, and if you look at the 0 where it equals 0, there's a bunch of crappy data. Let me. Does anyone mind if I share it? It's like I guess this is my EDA or not EDA, my data analysis or whatever.
Yeah, go ahead, Darren.
Okay, so let me see here. One second, guys. I'll do it. Okay. Should see my screen here. Let's see, is that the 0? That's a different one. Sorry, guys, I might give you guys a headache. Can anyone let me know if they could see my screen here?
You can see it. It's clear.
Okay. So I'm adding tokens count, calculating Jacquard, just looking at the curve and how it's a funny curve, kind of a backwards curve from what you'd want. And then Jacquard 0, okay? So you look at this, look at that ONNA, right? That's the frickin' answer. It doesn't exist. It's gonna without the G. So it's like some random manual mess up, right? So there's actually no way you can get this one right. Right, so this is noisy data, I guess, dirty data. Then Happy Mother's Day, too. How are you going to know to take off the pound there? You can't. And so that's not, and then look at Balmer, too.
It depends how they're tokenizing it. If it's using something like BPE, then it might be able to do it. It might not be tokenizing it as complete words, but instead of, say, 3 or 4 characters at a time, and then having that sliding window.
So are you thinking I should be, I see my understanding of this one was they were keeping it simple. You just tokenize through using the white spaces, and that's how they were running the Jacquard, right? So we don't know, like basically we're screwed on the metric because we don't know what they're using when you run it, what kind of tokenizer. I thought it was stated it was explicitly just a space, right?
I don't remember seeing that, but if you're trying to use a lot of the BERT kind of pre-trained, a lot of them are using BPE, I think, for their tokenizing.
Sure, but
is that this is some tokenization thing?
I don't think so. I think it's manual data that's fucked up.
Okay, could be.
No, but I don't know. But if it is, I mean, it's still confusing to me because sure, you're going to use whatever you use for a tokenizer to try to predict and get your selected text, right? I understand that. But then what do you actually put in your selected text? You would put the whole words. I mean, you're not going to put these pieces, word pieces, right?
Yeah, if you look at the valuation page in the competition, they have the actual metric that they use. So in that you can see they just split on spaces.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so that's it. They're
So
splitting on.
yeah.
So what
So
I'm
if your
showing you.
Jacquard is 0, then there's nothing you can do about that. So these are just messy data. There's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, it's fucked up, man. I mean, so I look at it, but okay, so it's only 500 and something. So what I'm thinking is, my question is, it gets more messy too, because if you look at here, what I do is without the zeros, right? So here's the curve, and I look closer, and you could see Jacquard drops. You could see this bend in the curve right there, like that spot right there. So I'm thinking I should probably drop this 1,000-something dirty documents, because under basically 0.04, it's just dirty data, right? Noisy data. So you could see here I run this for, I don't know, 0 to 0.4. But I should have. But anyway, let's just assume for a second you just drop everything under 0.04, which is like 1,000 or something documents. My question is, do you want, since their data is dirty, right? Do you want to somehow train with dirty data so your algorithm is used to sort of dealing with that? Or do you want to get rid of the dirty data so you have a nice, clean predictor? If I'm doing this for a real situation, I know what I would do, right? Because I want real words coming out. I want real stuff. But does anyone have any thoughts on how you deal with this noisy data?
Yeah, I mean, you do definitely want to deal with the dirty data, because the test set, the final private test set will probably have dirty data.
Yeah.
But you're quite right. I mean, yeah. I mean, I would probably have split the data into 3, which would be, 1 would be clean data, and train that heavily, fine tune it with the dirty data, and then use that and see what happens.
Well, why would you do that? Just to get, because it's a signal, but a weaker signal, because you're fine tuning with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to train the main thing with a lot of dirty data. Also, it depends on how much of the data is dirty. What percentage of it was dirty?
You can kind of see from this, but right, I don't have do I have a cumulative sum? I do have a cum sum here. So you could see here from 0 to probably 0.4. No, that can't be right. This is percentages, right, of cum sum. So that's not going to be helpful. Yeah, here you go. So you look at 0.4. It's under 1,000 documents, I think.
And in total, it looks like, how many were there? 4,500?
I think there's like 11,000 documents.
Oh, okay. I was looking on your y-axis on that guy.
Yeah, I'm just remembering too. I think it's just 1,000 of the. After you drop the neutrals, I think you're down to maybe 9,000. I can't remember. So it's what, a tenth maybe? We're going to drop a tenth of the data.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you do want to train it, but you don't want to, I don't know. Yeah, I would probably try it by splitting it, but yeah, it's you'd have to try out.
Okay.
Darren, can you show a few more examples of the 0 Jacquard scores? Is it just random text out of nowhere, or is it still part of the text but split? It got split between words or something like that?
Well, there's different scenarios. So here's one here, the exclamation mark. Let's see what that is. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you see that where the exclamation mark, comma, nice. I mean, what the heck is that?
Yeah, it looks like user error, isn't it, when they selected that bit of text? The tool they're using has probably got something which they just use a cursor to select or something. I mean, nobody typed that.
Yeah, look at rocks too. Like they'll have plenty of them where it's like ... a word, but then the actual selected text is ... that word. So there's like 4 dots. There's no way to know. It's like impossible. Like here's rocks too, right? So rocks, and then you have how many dots afterwards? But then there's only 2 right here. This is random shit.
Yeah.
Actually, it sounds like if the metric was a bit better, then most of this wouldn't be a problem. It's because the metric splits on space that our model may not get a good score.
Right.
Like
So here's
awesome makes sense here, right? But just because it didn't pick up all the exclamation marks, the Jaccard score is 0.
exactly. So the thing is, philosophically, how do you want to deal with this? Do you want to be gaming the Kaggle competition, playing to the metric, or you want to just think, well, this is an interesting use case you might be able to apply in a real situation. In that case, you would,
I mean, but all we have to do is at the end before submitting, we just make sure that uh, everything that we submit is part of a whole token when split by space. Like even if our model gives me back awesome as the main token, I just have to make sure that before submitting it, I would add all the exclamation marks so that the entire token gets submitted. So that's just a post-processing thing,
well,
if that
okay,
makes
so I
sense.
don't quite get that. So let's use this one right here. What would we do with that one? I mean, we get nice out of that, but the answer,
I mean,
exclamation mark, nice.
what I'm trying to say is, so suppose we use BERT or something, and it let's look at the awesome example that might be easier to explain. Star Trek was so awesome, and then like 10 exclamation marks. Yep, that's the one. Yeah. And suppose BERT gives us the output as just awesome without the exclamation marks, and now we know that if you submit just the word awesome, your Jaccard score is going to be 0. So before submitting, we just ensure that we submit whole tokens or whole words. So we just add whatever was part of that particular piece of text, and we complete that word and we submit it. Does that
Right, but
make sense?
no, because you have no idea how many exclamation marks to add or whether to add exclamation marks.
You have the sentence, right? So you just you look at the sentence and you complete that piece of text. You have the original sentence. This is
Right,
just so that our Jaccard score doesn't go to 0.
right, but
Like,
the
yeah.
awesome, that's your token in your original sentence. How do you
Yes.
go from that to this awesome with 2 exclamation marks? I know
So
you get awesome.
you just check what word it was part of, and then you complete that word. So here the word is awesome, exclamation, exclamation, and Spock. So you just complete that piece of text and then you submit it so that your
Right, so
Jaccard score is not 0.
it will be 0 because that's one token, awesome on all those exclamation points and Spock.
Yes, that's my point. Complete, like if your BERT model predicts awesome, I'm saying append all of those exclamation marks and Spock just so that you get a complete word in your original sentence, and then you can submit that.
Wouldn't have worked under this situation, though. But I understand that that's probably what you want to do. It makes sense, but I don't know if it'll help.
Okay. Anyone else had any ideas on how to tackle this? I mean, not this
You're
in
right.
particular, the whole competition. Like, how do you extract spans? Like I
Yeah.
had mentioned one in the first call that we had. Like this is similar to heat maps that we have in CNNs. Like in CNNs, if you're trying to detect dogs and stuff, then if you look at a heat map, the exact part of the image where the dog was present would have high values in the heat map. So if you were to use a CNN to classify this text as positive or negative, and then if you look at a heat map, you can see the exact words which were most important while classifying that sentence. So yeah, that's, I don't know how useful would that be, but that's one way of looking at it. And that's something that most people have not done. They have just gone for the question answering type of solving the competition.
How would you pursue that? What would be your next steps, Gotham?
I don't know if I'll actually go with the CNN one. What I'm thinking of right now is to have a simple model which does the classification task, like a bird model which does classification into positive, negative, and neutral, and then like a couple of us suggested last time, put on an interpretability model on top of that and see which words, like I don't know, like sharp or lime or something like that, and then see which tokens were influential in classifying each sentence, and then those tokens will be my output. I don't know how feasible this is, but yeah, that's my approach right now. Not done anything yet, but yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Gotham. Thank you, Darren. I have a quick question. Gotham, I think you mentioned something from the NLP embedding or NLP project group that now we can SSH into collabs and
Yeah.
use GPU in that way. Is that, can you actually do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna try that because that's very interesting. I would very much want to develop locally, and if I can just use my own collabs or Google accounts GPU, then I don't ever have to deal with collabs.
Yeah, I hate collab too. I don't like
User-friendly
it that much.
development environments, so I can just develop locally. In
It's really easy in VS Code. Yeah.
nice.
You just
Okay.
have to add the host and stuff in your config file, and
Okay.
then you can connect to that. Yeah.
Would you mind sharing that code block if you already have that?
There is, okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So you just have to, yeah, I'll share it with you. It's, yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you. All right. Yeah. I mean, Gotham brought it up, so I just want to share with everyone. You can now connect, literally just develop locally and connect to your Google Colabs GPU. So literally you can connect to a free cloud GPU locally. So
is it the amount of time you're logged into the SSH that it counts, or I suppose, you know, I don't know how, because I know in Colab, as soon as you're connected to the environment, it starts counting, and you get about 30 hours a month, don't you?
I've never hit the limit in Collapse, so I'm not sure about that.
Okay. But that's really useful, because I think they're quite powerful GPUs, aren't they? They're like.
I mean, they're okay. They're
they're not like top of the range, but they're better than like probably my 1080 Ti.
Yeah. Most often they give a Tesla K80. I'm not sure how good that is.
So Wen-Chin, could you explain that again? So you're using Colab without using it through the browser?
yeah, exactly. So you don't have to, let me just share screen. I think this is what Gotham shared, and I'm just literally quoting what he said from the NLP projects group. Basically, you know, it's this, and I'll send this again in the chat. You just install this and you SSH into that. And it seems like you can just, you know, launch SSH, and you can put in a token password, something like that. And yeah, I don't know. So how do you connect to your GPU in this, Gotham?
So first you open your Collab, and then you connect to a GPU runtime, and then you copy those 3 lines of code which you just showed. Do you want me to show it on mine? If
Yeah,
if
yeah,
people are interested.
you can share now. Yeah.
Okay.
Because in that way, you know, we don't have to use, you know, Kaggle notebooks or like Colab.
Gotham, are you on a Linux machine or are you Windows?
Yeah, I'm on an Ubuntu machine.
Do you think it'll work on Windows?
Sorry? Yeah, it should work on Windows. Yeah, yeah, it should. So what I usually do is I create a folder for any project that I am currently doing, and then I download all my Kaggle data into that folder. So this is something that you should do prior to this. Just keep it ready, and then one cell you can just mount your drive in this way. Yeah, and then so first of all you should connect to the runtime, obviously. I can do that now. So make sure your GPU is on, and then you can connect. Okay, and you mount this, and then you get this token from another site called NGROK or something like that. So get that token first. I think it's there in the collab SSH page, and then you give any password that you want. And once that's done, you get details in this manner, and then you open your VS Code.
Okay.
And then you should have remote SSH extension installed. Just give me a sec. I have a bunch of stuff open. I'll close everything. You should have remote SSH extension installed. This is the extension, remote SSH. And then click on this and then open configuration file. So there's this username /.ssh/config. There you add this that particular thing you saw in the collab. Just copy paste this.
Do you have to do this every time?
So the only thing that changes is port. And sometimes this digit changes. So this is the only thing that you have to copy and paste. So that changes every time. The port changes every time. So once you paste that, and then you can say connect to host, and this name would appear here, Google Colab SSH.
Okay.
And once you do that, you can open folder location to your folder in Drive that you just created for the competition. And then it's just like you're working in a local machine with that folder open. Yep.
So how do you go from VS Code to your Google Colab's GPU?
So that's what SSH does, right? You are you're getting a access of your collab runtime. That's what the SSH thing does. When you connect to a host in this manner, you are actually, so now it won't work obviously. You're actually getting into that collab runtime, and it would install a VS Code server on your on Google's machine. It would install VS Code server, and then whatever you type here actually gets saved in your drive.
Okay. And what's the code that you need on VS Code? Except
Don't
this.
need any code. This is the only thing. You just have to add this host details in your config. So you have a remote SSH configuration file.
Got it.
It's there in your username. I mean, this would be different for Windows, I suppose.
And every line of code will be running on your Google Colab GPU?
Yes. The only thing you have to make sure is, like, if you are idle and you don't run anything for like 15 minutes, you would get disconnected. So what I do is I just have a cell, something like this, and I just keep running this like every 15 or 20 minutes. Yeah. So that it doesn't get disconnected.
Got it.
Yep. That's all there is.
Sorry, Sir Gautam. So This thing really only works via VS Code because the thing that's listening on the port at the other end is a VS Code server, you're saying?
No,
Or is
this
that?
is just simple SSH into a machine. I'm not sure if IntelliJ has this feature, like a remote SSH. And then once you SSH into that, it downloads a VS Code server thing and installs it on the collab on the Google's machine.
But you're getting an actual shell when you SSH into that.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's got Python and everything installed.
Yeah. The Python, you have to search for Python 3. Simple Python would be some older version. And you can run it from the terminal itself. Like if you do Python 3, you would have everything, all the usual stuff installed, TensorFlow, PyTorch, all of the stuff installed. And
Right.
you can install packages as well. Yeah.
And
another useful thing is to install Python extension as well. If you install that one, you get all the IntelliSense features of VS Code. That's very useful. You get autocomplete and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Right. And you were saying that you can mount one of your folders in your Google Drive to
Yes.
a directory, and that.
If you have this cell in your notebook done, it's already mounted, and then you would have to. So VS Code will ask you what folder do you want open, and then you would say open /content/drive, and inside drive your entire Google Drive would be appearing, and then you can choose your folder that you want.
And when you SSH, there's no password. As soon as you go to the host.
That's this. You can set a password here.
Oh, you have to type that in. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Cool, awesome. Thank you, Gotham, for sharing that, and that is very awesome. Because I definitely want to try that, and because I don't have a GPU locally, and I don't want to develop in Google Colab either. So this might be a way to kind of just work around. And cool. All right, so
I have a quick question. So the code itself, does it live locally, or only data lives on Google Drive, right?
No, everything is on Google Drive, including your code. You just
okay. So you just open file there. Okay.
Yeah.
Question. So your environment, if say you install a bunch of stuff, that's also all. That's going to disappear, right? Just like it does with code.
Like most of the stuff that you need would already be there, but anything new would disappear next time for sure. Yeah.
Have you done other types? Like VS Code has a number of different types of remote development. Have you used any, like on a VM or anything like that?
Yeah,
like
it's
it uses
the same. Yeah, in my work, I SSH into my the Azure VMs that we have. So I use the same extension, remote SSH.
Okay, that's because I've tried Visual Studio Code.
The exact same procedure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I've given up because it wasn't working. I couldn't get it to remote. But I guess this is the answer. That's great. And when you're doing your Kaggle stuff, do you basically develop locally, and then when you're ready to use a GPU, that's when you bear the inconvenience of what you just showed us? You know, like having to keep it alive, or do you just actually do everything on Colab, even if it doesn't matter if you have a GPU?
Yeah, most of the time, like I start with a notebook, and even though I hate Colab notebooks, I mean, it's easier to develop with a notebook first before you go to VS Code, right? So I do something on my Colab notebook first, and then I move on to the VS Code part.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because I do that all the time, and it has nothing to do with remote development, just because you want to actually avoid doing any engineering, and being in a notebook environment is good for that. You know, and then when I realize I have to start being a little bit more engineering focused,
you can do both in VS Codes.
That extension gives me some problem. The Python notebook extension thing, right? The Python notebook thing.
Yeah, you can do both, and I have no problems of doing that. Literally just comments, percentage sign. Type in comments, which is pound and space percentage, then that becomes a Jupyter Notebook cell. And you can, and when you're done, you just like change all occurrences, remove all the pound, percentage sign, and that's your script.
Say that again. So you're saying you're in VS Code.
Let me just share my screen. That's probably better. So look at this. So you can, this is actually Jupyter Notebook cell. And let me just.
But are you, is that, I know you can develop in Jupyter Notebook. So you're developing in Jupyter Notebook right there. So why do you need
this
the
is .py. This is .py. So I could literally change all occurrences, and now this is all gone. This .py, and if you just want to make them back, and you can just what did I do?
I guess
has anybody
so
yeah,
what's
go ahead.
With that? Yeah, sorry, carry on, Darren.
No, please go.
So why would you want to do this, Venture? And why would you want to, I mean, there are comments as far as Python's concerned, so only some intelligent interpreter like the IDE is going to know that that's a bit of
It's
Jupyter.
nice to run it cell by cell, right? You don't want to run every time from the beginning.
The idea is that you can literally do a equals to 5, a plus 3. So you can start testing cells here. I mean, it's not, it runs, I don't know why it's getting stuck here, but literally you can, okay, I got an 8 here, you know, you can literally test different variables. Like, you know, it's better to kind of, like what Darren was saying, okay, you know, you might want to do a Jupyter Notebook first and kind of test it, then you go into the engineering environment. But I'm just saying you don't have to open up a Jupyter Notebook because literally you have it here. Like all you need is just a magic commands.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and it's very easy to just delete them. Yeah, it's very easy to just delete them, and there you go. So then that's your .py file again, right? So yeah.
What do they call that? Like when you do that, pound, percent, like if I want to
I
read
think
up on
it's
it?
just a Jupyter Notebook like integration, something like that.
So, but the what you're doing there, can some of your code be in cells and some not in cells? Because I think they have a Jupyter Notebook integration that's different than what you're showing. Or am I
Yeah,
right?
so you can also open up a .py and that will be a Jupyter Notebook by itself, but then it will have to be .py, like IPyMB. So if I just like, you know, basically just test .ipymb and just then this itself will become a Jupyter Notebook. There you go. So but this is a little different because this has its own Jupyter Notebook cells, and you can't really, you know, turn this like easily back to like .py.
Ah, I see. I get it.
Yeah. And this executes within, you know, the notebook, right? So, but versus the other one, you can literally play around here, and it's very easy to go back to, you know, your script. So that's that. All right.
And you could also,
yeah, I don't want to drag this further because we got to go back to coding. And all right. Thank you everyone for sharing all the great tips and suggestions. So let's spend around perhaps 35 minutes till like 12:20 EST, and then we can discuss for like 10 minutes of what you guys have done, what you want to share, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, I'll talk to you guys in a bit. Hey, time is up. It's 12:20. Is everyone doing good? Or anyone wants to say something, make a comment, share something, sharing their progress? Someone wanted to say something? Nope. Okay. Well, if no one wants to share anything, we'll just try to end early, and I'll try to work on this more so that I can share something next time. And everyone just keep working on this.
Since Yuri is here now, I just wanted to ask him about that submission.
Oh yeah, hi.
Yeah, Yuri. So I was facing some issues when I'm trying to submit the submission file to the competition. I was not able to generate a score. It's saying that the submission has ended, so you cannot submit to it now. But you were saying that you got the score, right, when you tried to submit?
Yeah. Let me go back to it. Yeah, what I can do is I can try to publish my my notebook. Yeah, I don't too many windows open. Yeah, let me try finding it.
Sure. Just share in the Slack.
Yeah, I'll do that. But yeah, what I did is I basically just basically said like, well, the answer should be the whole span.
Yeah.
And then
Even
I
I did
did
the same thing and submitted it.
and I'll try doing it again just to see if it still works.
Sure.
Let me try that now.
Gautam, were you using the API or the UI?
Sorry?
Oh, sorry. Whoever was having problems, I was just asking whether they're using the API or whether they're using the user interface.
No, I was just trying to submit from the Kaggle site itself, not the API commands.
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Well, on that note, let's end 5 minutes earlier, which is fine, and we'll just have to keep working on this until we have more progress to share with everyone. And all right, hopefully you guys will have a productive week from Monday going forward. Okay. All right. Have fun, guys.